Welcome back to Smeester's Corner. I'm Adam Smeester. Today we're going to be talking about an underserved topic, boundaries. Boundaries are important. The data says that a person who doesn't have strong boundaries is more likely to feel perpetually sad and hopeless. So boundaries are important. So let's talk about how to have boundaries and what those boundaries might look like. So boundaries do three things. Boundaries protect you from other people. They protect you from you. And three, boundaries give you a framework on how to live and how to not live, which is more important. All right, so let's talk about how boundaries protect you from other people. You have to figure out how you are going to let other people treat you. If you are a really agreeable person, this might be a struggle for you, like it is me, because I don't like to make waves, so I tend to not call people out on how they're behaving towards me. But how you let other people treat you is a signal to everybody else around you how you are willing and how accepting you are of being treated. So let me give you an example. So years ago, I had a student and she came up to me and she said, "Mr. Smeester, I need some advice." And I was like, "Okay, what's the deal?" And she said, "Well, my boyfriend cheated on me and so we broke up. But he wants to get back together and I still really like him." And I thought, well, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will tell you that if you get back together with him, all of your friends and all of his friends and everybody watching this at school, you're sending a signal to them on how you're going to allow someone to treat you. So if you do get back together with him, that signals to everybody else, this is how I allow people to treat me. And they'll take their cues from there. So you have to make boundaries in your life on how you're going to allow people to treat you. And then once they cross those boundaries, what are you going to do about it? Another example, when teasing goes too far. So like your friends are having a good time, making fun of each other, they're joking around. What if one of them goes too far? Because feelings get hurt. And sometimes joking isn't really joking, you know, those gray areas. So when a joke goes too far or you didn't appreciate something, what are you going to do? Are you going to say something? If you're going to say something, how are you going to say something? Because what you don't want to do is just react in the moment and say, "Hey, that was a pretty jerky thing to do," or you kind of go off on them and then they get defensive and they say, "Geez, Mr. Sensitive over here." And then you will come off as the idiot. Okay, you don't want that to happen. So you have to start thinking these things through. You have to start making boundaries. For people who can't say no, you got to start making some boundaries. That was me. I was just an agreeable person in college, and people will take advantage of you. People will treat you like a doormat, and then you'll wonder why you always get treated like that. So, like, for example, I had trouble saying no, and people would always ask me, "Hey, can you be the DD tonight? Can you be the DD tonight?" And I was just thrilled that people asked me to hang out with them, so I would go be their DD. And then we get to the party, and then all of a sudden they realized Smeester's cool, so we could just leave him here and go off and talk to other people. So then people would just disappear, and then I'd just be there by myself. So people will take advantage of you. So the first question is, what are your boundaries going to be? The second question is, when you have boundaries, what if people cross the boundaries? How are you going to react? Because like I said, you can't just react in the moment. You have to have a plan for that. Maybe run through a couple scenarios in your mind, just things that tend to happen sometimes. How are you going to handle that? Most of the time, just a piece of advice, I would say it's better handled one-on-one. Like, don't call people out in front of a bunch of other people. That tends to not go well. So maybe just pull them aside and say, "Hey." And people respect that. All right, number 2, protecting you from you. You have to decide what you're willing to do, all the things that you're willing to do, and then the things that you're not willing to do. You don't want to be the person that just says, "I'll try anything once," because everyone is one bad decision away from ruining their life. And the person that says, "I'll do anything once," the chances that they're going to ruin their life are substantially higher than the rest of the population. If you're a person that doesn't have boundaries and you just say, "Well, we'll just see what happens," you're going to have to make up your mind in the moment on what you're going to do, and it's probably not going to be good. The people that are trying to make up their mind in real time, in the moment, probably don't make very good decisions. Well, they don't make very good decisions. For example, dating and hooking up. What are you going to do? When you go on a first date, a second date, have you made up your mind? You probably should need to make up your mind what you're willing to do before you even go on a date. If you tell yourself, "Well, let's just see where it takes us," you're probably going to be making decisions in the moment, and they're probably not going to be good. So what if someone starts pushing, what if you do have boundaries and someone starts pushing the envelope a little bit? How are you going to react to that? You have to think about these things. What tends to happen is people don't say anything because they don't want the situation to feel awkward, and then they do something that they end up regretting that they didn't actually want to do, and they're not into it in the moment, so they just go along with it because they don't want a situation like the following to happen where they say, oh, I wasn't ready for that, and the other person's like, what? And then they're caught off guard, and then everything's awkward, and then you just kind of ruined it, and that person doesn't want to be with you again, and you just blew it. You can make up your mind before the date, and then as the date progresses, you are kind of steering the ship on where it's going. Or what's really mature, I've heard this happen like one time. My friend in college went on a date with a girl, and she told him flat out before they even went on a date, she's like, yeah, I don't spend the night at people's houses before, whatever her boundary was. And we were all kind of impressed because we'd never heard of a college girl doing that before or saying something like that. And automatically we respected her because she has boundaries. And if you have boundaries, that means you respect yourself. Then there's the topic of drugs and drinking. What are you willing to do and what are you willing to not do? Because if you start going to parties, I guarantee you will be offered every single thing there is on the black market in terms of drugs or alcohol. You will be pushed. People will pressure you to do things. Okay, how are you going to handle that? What are you going to do? You're going to make your mind up in the moment? It's probably not going to be a good decision. One thing that I used to do, so to kind of bail me out of those situations where when I was the DD, that was my boundary and I wasn't going to drink. But people pressure you all the time. So sometimes, like when I was in college, my freshman year, I played football. So I'd go to the football parties and, those guys like to party. And so we'd go to a party. They'd say, Smeester, you drinking? I'd say, no, I'm the DD. And they'd say, well, me too. And then they'd start chugging. So you're going to be pressured. So eventually what I just did is I just had like a Dixie cup full of some drink and I just walk around with it and I wouldn't drink it, but at least it'd get people off my back. And that was kind of the way I handled that boundary. And lastly, you need to have a plan. Everything I'm talking about, that's a plan. Okay. So when you go to a party, you need to have a plan. Okay. Who's going to be looking after who? Because if everyone gets smashed, people are going to be taken advantage of. How are you going to get home? How are you going to get there? You can't say, well, we'll just figure it out when we get there. That's irresponsible. Bad things are going to happen. Somebody, especially if you're a group of girls, needs to be responsible for everybody when you're there. So if you do have a friend that's pushing their boundaries and just getting hammered, that doesn't even know what's going on, that person's not getting taken advantage of. And also, if you're a guy, you can still get taken advantage of if you don't have people looking out for you, like people drawing pictures with marker all over your face and taking really embarrassing pictures and posting those pictures, or you doing something really embarrassing. Okay, you need to have people looking out for you and looking out for how you're going to get home. So that's protecting you from you. So like we've been talking about, boundaries give you a framework for how to live and how not to live. It will make you a happier person. It will make you less anxious. In the Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt, who's a social psychologist from NYU, he talks a lot about this. And he says people need constraints, which are boundaries. You need to have social constraints, what you're willing to do, what you're willing not to do. That creates social bonds with other people because you find like-minded people. Those boundaries tell you how to treat people, how others can treat you. It reinforces your obligations and responsibilities to others and how you're going to be treated and how you're going to treat other people. It makes you a happier person because it gives you a connection to your community, to your family, to your friends, okay, whatever social network you have, it builds a stronger bond because you have those constraints. Constraints give you structure. If you have no boundary, you're a very unstructured person. People that aren't structured are all over the place mentally and emotionally. And structure can help give you meaning. Boundaries give you structure. When you feel structure, you feel connected. When you feel connected, you feel stable. So this is what Jonathan Haidt says. He says, people that have strong boundaries or structure or constraints are less likely to kill themselves. It strengthens your immune system, extends life, speeds recovery from surgery, reduces the risk of depression and anxiety disorders, and it boosts your mood. And here's why. Because you don't have to ask the following questions. You don't have to ask questions like, in situations like, what should I do? Did I make the wrong decision? Will they like me if I do or don't do X? What will they think of me? You don't have to ask those questions because you have boundaries. The boundaries make those decisions for you. When you do come upon those questions, the boundaries answer those questions, and the answer to those questions is, I did what's best, and I don't care what they think. That's the answer. And it gives you much more emotional and mental stability. All right. So I hope this helps, guys. Thanks for watching.